I'm someone who loves desserts, but I like home-style desserts, things like crumbles and cobblers and self-saucing puddings. So I'm going to show you it's a cobbler, but I'm going to make the batter that goes on top a little bit closer to pancake batter than it is to scone batter, which is what you normally get with a cobbler, so something in between. Trying to make it a little bit lighter, I guess. First thing I want to do is build the fruit that's going to go underneath the cobbler. So I've got rhubarb, which I've chopped into these little battens, about 1 inch, 2.5 centimetres. Pop them in. Then apple. So I want to cut these into sort of bite-sized pieces as well. And these are a sweet apple. If you want a little bit of acidity, you can go with something like a Granny Smith apple, which is going to have a little bit more acidity to it. And I like to keep the skin on because it helps hold the shape or the form of the apple so it doesn't fall apart. Put that in, give it a mix. Apple and rhubarb is a great combination because normally apples are a little bit, well, they're quite sweet unless you use one of those sour apples, and the rhubarb is tart. So the combination of the sweetness of the apple and the tart of the rhubarb works really well. And they're normally things that you can find that are in season together. Right, so my spices, I've got a little bit of cinnamon. There's a teaspoon of cinnamon there. I want to put half of my cinnamon in with the apples and the rhubarb. And I've got some ginger. Same, I've got 2 teaspoons of ginger. I want to put 1 teaspoon in with the apples. And the rest I'll leave for the batter that goes on top. Maple syrup. You don't have to use maple syrup if you don't want to. I'm going to use maple syrup and brown sugar just because I think maple syrup, rhubarb and apple is a really good combination. So it's a flavour thing for me. And then brown sugar. Again, caramel and apples works really well. Now because these are quite sweet apples, I'm not going to need all of this brown sugar. So it'll cook down and be quite sweet. So that was probably 1/4 cup of brown sugar, a pinch of salt. And I'm going to put, this is a good little trick, a little bit of lemon just to counteract that sweetness a little bit and just to give it some of that lemon flavour. I like when your fruit stews and the caramel sauce that it's in isn't too runny. Sometimes the fruit lets go of a lot of moisture and it becomes really runny. So just a little sprinkle of flour on that will help thicken your sauce. There we go. Right, so now I can make my batter. Flour, didn't measure that, but I would say about 1.5 cups to 2 cups. We can add some if we need to. There's no real measurements for this. You might make a bigger tray of cobbler than I do and just adapt it. If you find that you need more flour, then add more flour. If you need more cream, add more cream. Butter. So the old classic sort of scone recipe, a good way to spread the butter out through the flour mixture. Just pinch the flour between your fingers. You'll end up spreading all that butter out amongst the flour. You're just going to do this, so between your fingers, rubbing it through until all of the big lumps of butter are gone, and it'll start to resemble breadcrumbs. And then you know that your butter has been mixed into your flour the way you want it to. Once I get all of that mixed in, I'm going to add a little bit of brown sugar. My leftover spices will go in, and then I'm going to whisk together some cream and an egg, and then we'll add that cream and egg mixture until I get this to the consistency that I want, which is a thick, almost a thick pancake mixture. So I've got my wet and my dry ingredients ready to go. So I can add in the wet, probably 3/4 of that, just so I can adjust it if I need to. Mix all that together. So that was 1.5 cups of cream and 2 eggs. All right, I reckon I'm gonna need 1/4 cup of milk. I wanna be able to dollop this mixture onto what I've got there. All right, so we ended up with about 2 cups. So that's now getting to a sort of a thick hot cake or pancake consistency, which is what I want. So I can pop this on top of my apples. This is going to go into an oven about anywhere between 160 and 180, so 170 and 75, for about 35 to 40 minutes, until all we're really wanting here is for the batter on top to be cooked through. So when you can put a skewer in and it comes out clean, then you know it's done.